So this is part 2, continuing from the first part of cleaning up the edge of this selection. So when I'm working with the brush, I have the option to change the hardness of the edge of my brush. So in this case, most of the areas I'm going to want it to be at 100%, so I have a crisp, clean edge. You lose a little leeway as far as making errors with the edge of your selection. It just looks cleaner when you end up putting it in your photo, so in your collage. Okay, there might be some areas though, especially when I look at the edge of the hand here, it's just a really soft transition from one part to another, and that's the one spot where I could bring that hardness of the brush down to that edge and make it smaller, so it's going to feather it more, because it's out of focus in my picture a little bit. So then that way I can come in and clean this up and start to bring back some of my photo that got missed with the selection. So I'm going to do this all the way on the edges, get it nice and clean. So right now I'm doing the plus because I'm adding to the current selection that I have. Some of this is getting a little bit big when I do it, so I'm going to switch to the minus, and in some of these darker areas I don't need as much of that photo there, so now I'm subtracting from my selection here. I'm going to bring that in a little bit as well. All right, so once I've got that finished and finalized, then I'm going to say okay. Looks better than it was before, so it's still a little bit feathered, and when I look at my quick selection on here, it's because it probably just was not as clean of an edge as I needed it to be, so that's why it's looking a little bit soft. So I'm going to do a window, arrange. I'll try 2 up. I need to see my collage, so I'm going to click on this tab and I'll move it to the other spot. And now I can see the hand and my collage. So I'll click on the hand, click on the gray part of the layer. If you click on the mask, it's just going to drag the mask over so that it would look like that. So I need to click on the gray part and I'm going to drag it over. And now I've got the hand in there. So window, arrange, consolidate. This time it's way too small. I'm going to do my Control T again, hold Shift. It looks pixelated at the moment. Sometimes this happens when you're doing your transform, but once I press enter, you can see that it comes back in that clear view. So now that I have it in here, I can see the edges that I was working with before, and I can still go back in and I could do the select and mask and continue to clean that up once it's in my document. Your layer order matters with this. So let's say I decide to take the moon. I'm going to click on the moon. It's highlighting it in my layers. And let's say I want to have the moon sitting in the hand here. I need to, because the moon is underneath the hand in my layer order, I'm going to actually bring it up above. So it's like I'm stacking, pieces of paper on top of each other. This would be the top layer. And then that way I can have it above. And then I could have it make it look like it's kind of sitting in the hand. I'm going to do a Control T on this. And I'll make it a little bit bigger. And then press enter. Okay. If I don't want it to overlap the fingers, I could bring the opacity down on this a little ways so I could see the fingers underneath. And then I could click on, I won't keep it like this. I could, but I'm not going to keep it like this. But I'm going to click on the mask. When we look at our mask, it's black and white. White is anything of that layer we're going to see. Black is what we can't see. So in this case, I want to make this part of the moon here and here where the fingers are black, so they're hidden. So that part of the moon is hidden to make it look like the moon's sitting in the hand. So in this case, just like we would in select and mask, I'm going to click on the brush. I want to have that crisp edge to my brush, so I'm going to bring the hardness all the way up. And then in this case, my brush is a good size. If I needed to make my brush smaller, I'm going to use the left bracket, which is right next to the letter P, and I make that smaller. The right bracket is going to make it bigger. And then I can zoom in, Control plus. I'm going to bring the opacity of my brush up to 100%. If you want it to be slightly transparent, the brush, you can keep it down. And that's what happened when I did this the first time. And then I can come in and just take away where that moon would be by the fingers. And now, because we can't see that part of the moon, it's starting to look like the moon is in the hand. So it's that part of the moon is going to be behind the fingers. Right here, I took away just a little bit too much of the moon. So then I need to switch to a white brush to bring it back. So in this case, my colors are down here. I'm going to switch this so that the white is in front, and then I could come along this edge and I could bring some of that moon back so it looks like it's even next to the fingers. You could do this in select and mask if you wanted. You would just be able to see the image underneath. All right, so I would continue to add more pictures to this. And once I do, then I'm going to start changing the different parts of it with the values and the lights and darks and colors to fit with a color scheme specifically.